Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Is the sound clear?
Yes, Sheikh Barakallah Fik, sound is very clear.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. Assalamu alaikum everyone. I hope you're all well. Alhamdulillah. We begin as always in the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful. And Jazakallah khair to Islamwise for inviting me to this seminar. And I think they know and they understand how close this topic is to my heart, mainly because I am a convert, revert, whatever you might have you, whichever name you want to choose. And I became Muslim 15 years ago. And every day is a struggle, you know. Every day is still a struggle because the war with shaitan doesn't stop. A lot of people think that it's okay, you know. I found Islam, and it's all fine, good, alhamdulillah, you know. It's been a long struggle, and I found Islam, and now I'm gonna have some kind of a, you know, almost like a cruise control ride where I'm going to just enjoy life. And that's not true. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, in Surah Ankabut, and I do recommend that when I cite something that you try to either write it down or go check it out. So you can always have some reference point and, you know, revisit some of the things that we said, specifically because it makes more impact when you read it yourself. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, حَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَكُونُوا آمَنَّا فَهُمْ لَا يَفْتَنُونَ أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا فَهُمْ لَا يَفْتَنُونَ. Do people think that they'll be left alone on saying we believe and they'll not be tested? وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّا الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. Indeed, Allah says that He has tested the people before, and He wanted to show people who is truthful and who is lying. So if you are a new Muslim joining this webinar, open up your heart, open up your ears, try to understand so that you could help others, you can help yourself, you can understand these issues. Because the objective of speaking here today is not just to feel bad for new Muslims. You know, the whole new Muslim card becomes old after some time. I'm not a new Muslim anymore. I should be ashamed of myself to call myself a new Muslim. I use it only for the purpose of identifying when I talk about these issues. Because 15 years after I became Muslim, 2003, so almost 16 years now, you're just a Muslim. You are someone who submits to Islam. Till today, people, when they see me, white man in a Muslim land, they come to me, just last night, every day almost, in the masjid. Where are you from? Okay, Romania. Are you a new Muslim? I said, I'm an old Muslim. And I am an old Muslim. It's been almost 16 years. So, but I'm a convert, revert at some point, but I'm a Muslim now. So all this so-called new Muslim label has to go at some point. I'll tell you why. Because, see, the shaitan, the way he works, and he doesn't want you to necessarily fall into shirk right away, because that's too apparent, you know, it'll be very difficult. And most people, like myself, when they realize that Islam is the truth, that's the one thing that you're worried about the most, right? To fall into shirk. So you're not going to do that. You're going to be very careful what you do and what you think and how you think and so on. So the shaitan will try to get you to doubt yourself, to have problems. He's going to try to extend you on this whole new Muslim thing. And so you don't join the ummah, so you don't become a proper Muslim, so you're not fully integrated into the society. So you're just like always gonna go year by year, say, I'm a new Muslim, I feel bad for myself, I'm not good, or you know, these problems and I can't solve it, blah 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 and whatnot. You understand what I'm saying? So that's something that you got to be aware of, because if not, you're not going to be able to participate in Zuma. And the objective of becoming a Muslim, the objective of being a Muslim is that you contribute to this ummah, that you change something about yourself and about your surroundings and so on. So if you can't do that, the shaitan is somehow won. Okay, he's paralyzed you. And we're going to talk a little bit about what I call the new Muslim paralysis. Let me just adjust my camera for a second. 1 minute. All right, there we go. So we're going to talk about this new Muslim paralysis. You know, I'm a new Muslim, I need help, blah, 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 boo-hoo-hoo. I don't feel good, you know. Let me cry for myself and let everyone cry for me. And I know a lot of people will be like, what are you talking about? You don't know the issues that we're facing and so on. I do know the issues. I'm probably one of the ones who know the issues more than many people, because I've dedicated my life to this. And I've seen people coming to Islam with me, without me, with others. And I've seen the same people leave Islam. And that's so painful and that's so scary, because SubhanAllah, to lose your iman is one of the worst things that can happen to you. Wallahi, lose your life before you lose your iman. Lose your anything, all your money, everything. But losing your iman is paramount to eternal destruction. Sadly, brothers and sisters, because today, especially with social media and the West, I'm a Westerner. You know, I'm from the West. I live in the Muslim countries. I've been living in the Muslim countries for the past 10 years, a decade. I've learned their languages. I learned their cultures. I learned their ups and downs. And the truth is that we are in a world where the non-Muslims have the lingua franca, it's English. The non-Muslims are the ones who create cultures. We're not, the Muslims are not. The Muslims are consuming these cultures. They are ingesting them and practicing them. And it's affecting our faith, of course. So we are made to believe that Islam is just another religion amongst religions. Good for you that you become Muslim, and let me pat you on the back. You know, and good job. You know, a lot of the non-Muslims will be like, wow, you become Muslim? That's good for you. Good job, you know. I'm Buddhist or something. Let's hold hands and have a nice life. And I'm not saying that you should disrespect people. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have some kind of dialogue and so on. But in the end of the day, inna deena indallahi al-Islam. Indeed, the way with Allah, the truth is Islam. If we don't believe that, if we haven't internalized that, if we haven't rationalized that this is the truth and this is it, there's nothing else. If we've been convinced by again, social media, the culture, pluralistic, you know, approach, that it's okay. There's others. I mean, we're, alhamdulillah, it's our personal struggle. And it's our personal path. And there's others who have their paths. And let us all just chill, you know. If we're in that situation, then I think we need to review where we stand. Because Islam is not about, it's not about some kind of spiritual exercise or religious exercise so you can feel good and, you know, you've tried something different. Well, Islamic is cool, you know, because it's really like hip. And, you know, the Arabs are really cool and or whatever, the Indians, Pakistanis, and it's like something that attracts me. It's a culture that I've, you know how it is today. People like culture hop. They like the different things, they are not like them. And that's not what Islam is all about. So we need to first and foremost understand, what do we want with Islam before we can even talk about the challenges. Is that, where do we stand on Islam? What does my iman tell me? I mean, who am I? Am I really a Muslim? Do I really believe in Islam? I'm not questioning you. Yani. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is questioning you. Because he says, so that he may show who were the truthful and who were not. Who was just saying, yeah, let me check it out. Let me see what Islam is cool. Today, sisters, they like hijab. SubhanAllah, I know people keep talking about, hijab. It's so difficult. There's a lot of movements in the West that the sisters think, or the ladies think, that hijab is something fashionable. You find them using scarves. Even in Eastern Europe right now, a lot of women, they'll be wearing long dresses and scarves, and they think it's like feminine. And I think it's sexy. So a lot of people are just like, I remember in the Bronx in New York, the brothers, because African American culture is quite popular in the United States, of course, because because of social media, because of rap and R&B and so on. And SubhanAllah, the non-Muslims started developing some of the culture that they used to see in the Bronx from the Muslims, wearing the short thobe and even the Philly beard. Okay, it's become a fashion. So bottom line is, my question to you and to myself is, like, are we really convinced with our faith? Are we really here where we want to be? Are we really into Islam because we believe in Islam? If we answer no, then, or we're doubtful, then we need to review our options, and not our options, but our choices, what we've done and why. And we need to fix that as soon as possible, because it's an issue. If we say, yes, I believe, I've struggled, I believe in this, then there we can open up the next chapter, which is the struggles, the pressures that we will face as new Muslims. And the reality is, I remember the first year when I became Muslim, it was so beautiful. Let's start from that. It was so beautiful because it's like amazing, it's like you just discovered the most beautiful thing in your life. It liberates you, because of previous struggle. You're searching, you're looking for truth. I spent years fighting none other than myself. Forget about everyone else that I fought with. But the biggest fight was within myself, of finding God. What is the truth? God was always there for me. I always felt that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was in my life. But I knew that I was not doing what I'm supposed to do. God was always doing what he's supposed to do. Sometimes I feel like God is not there. God is always there, man. You guys have to understand, Allah is always there. Allah never left you. Allah never left us alone for 1 minute. The food that you put in your mouth, as a kafir or as a Muslim, وَرَحْمَةُ اللَّهِ وَسِعَتْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. The mercy of Allah encompasses everything. I felt God throughout my whole life. Crossing the street, sometimes getting into trouble, the good and the bad. At every point, I felt that Allah was there. But the problem was, Allah was doing everything that He's, the best. The question was I doing my best? And that's where the journey started, right? To find the truth. What do I have to do to give God back? Because Allah has given us everything. So what are we doing? Most people today, they don't even say thank you. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ. Very few, very, very, very few actually thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how do you thank Allah? Oh, thank you, God. No, it's not about that. Yes, saying it is important, but even more is showing, doing the right thing, displaying your obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through what He wants you to do. Okay? Through what He wants you to do. So this is where it comes. Now, moving to the next chapter, the pressures that new Muslims face. So you've taken Shahada, and this is, imagine the time when you took Shahada, or you've seen someone take Shahada. I'm not sure. How many new Muslims do we have online right now? Can you just type, please? I always like to know if there's any new Muslims. If there's none, then just, I'm sure you've seen Shahadas and you've seen people becoming Muslim. Okay, so there's a few Muslims. Okay, good. So for those new Muslims, just go back to the time you've taken Shahada. MashaAllah. Just go back, remember, take a minute with me, okay? I want you to feel it. I want you to go back to the time that you've taken Shahada. When you said, Ashhadu, someone told you, repeat after me, right? That's what they say. Repeat after me. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. Right? Maybe they told you, no, make it correct. I bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his final slave and messenger. And all of a sudden, takbir, Allahu Akbar, the tears, the hugs, the love that you feel, right? I guess the relief. You feel it physically, don't you? You felt it. You felt like something was lifted from your chest, from your heart. You felt like something physically, subhanAllah. You felt your body, you felt your heart beat a different way. And everyone came and lined up, maybe depending where you are, sister, brother. And they hugged you and wished you the best. And you felt, and throughout the days coming after, people, when they met you, they saw you, you're a new Muslim, right? So, but then the next day comes. This is where I want you to focus now. I hope you felt or refelt that experience. It's beautiful, right? It's the best day. Yeah. It was the best day. I think definitely the best day in our lives. Yeah. So, but what happens tomorrow? Today, new Muslim, good, Shahada. What happens tomorrow? You go home, back to reality, back to the real world, and Shaitan tells you that, have you done the correct choice? Are you sure? Are you sure about it? Right? The waswasa starts, the whispers. And in your heart, you're like, oh man, that's true. Have I done the right thing? And if that's not good enough, then your family join the bandwagon, friends and so on. They find you become Muslim. What's wrong with you? Crazy? Don't you see what they do? Blah, 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 blah. I'm sure you guys all know the whole thing. So you experience maybe doubts for the first time in your life. And your heart is shaken sometimes. Could be sooner, could be later, could be next day, could be maybe a year, depending. Could be after meeting someone, could be a missionary, could be a family member, could be something you read on stupid line, on social stupid media, where people love to live their lives on. So it causes you to unnaturally move now through Islam in a different pace, followed by doubts, followed by struggles. If you haven't, and I would like to know, because I haven't met one Muslim yet who hasn't doubted his faith at the first few years, like serious doubts. And the problem is, brothers and sisters, that we don't like to talk about, I don't know, the Muslim community in general. And we're talking about the Muslims, forget about the non-Muslims. The non-Muslims have the same problems and worse. The Muslim community does not want to talk about some of these things. If you've never had any doubts, no problems, no issues, alhamdulillah, then may Allah bless. You are blessed. So just keep thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Say alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Keep thanking Allah. Because the worst thing you want is to have those pressures on your back and to have those doubts and those weaknesses. You don't want that. Okay? So say alhamdulillah. But if you're like myself and the majority of the new Muslim, you've suffered quite a lot in the beginning. And the next few years, the choices that you made, following those doubts are mostly because you want to protect yourself from those doubts. You want to make sense. You want to make sense of your new identity. You want to make sense. It's simple, right? So God is one. Pay attention to me, right? Because you need to have some kind of a safety net that you can fall back on. God is one. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. There's no doubt. There's no doubt that Allah exists. Because, just look around, man. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand, to look. And that's why when you read through the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is most of the time asking us to look around, right? إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. Indeed, creation of heavens and the earth and the alteration of day and the night, there are signs for people who think. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, look, observe, think. Is he saying, look at this miracle? Everything is a miracle. The way the sun rises and it sets, the way everything's been created. وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ, and yourselves. So I don't think with 100% I can say that whoever doesn't believe in God, is a loser. Because it's like saying that, here's a mobile phone. And I said, no, it's not really a mobile phone. I think it's a cow. Because it's so apparent. Everything points towards the fact that this is a mobile phone, but yet you are refusing to accept it. Everything points towards that. But you say, no, I think it's a cow. Everything points towards the existence of Allah. Everything in this world. Read the Quran, brothers and sisters, please. Don't let one day pass by without having some interaction with the Quran. And think. So there's no doubt about it. Okay? The problem comes with other things when you move on through the daily lives and doubts and so on. So let us start now with outlining some of the pressures that you face. And I'd say the first pressure that you face, as I told you, is the pressure from shaitan to leave Islam. That's the first thing that happens to any person, is that the shaitan will pressure you to leave Islam through doubts, through problems, through whatever comes, but mostly through doubts. You're questioning yourself. You're questioning your choice. You're questioning, is Prophet Muhammad the real prophet? Is the Quran really the word of God? And other shayateen join that, because shayateen min al-ins wal jinn. They are devils from human beings and from the jinn. It's not just the devil. You understand? So that's the first pressure. The shaitan will pressure you to get out through all kinds of different things. He'll tell you, get out, go. And brothers and sisters, many, almost as much as half, if not more, of so-called reverts or converts, they leave Islam within the first year or 2 years. If you don't believe me, do a bit of research. There are some statistics now. If you don't believe me, then look around yourself. For some of the Muslims that you've seen, new Muslims, converts, whatever, when they take in Shahada, where are they now? Do you see them? Do you see them coming to the masjid? Do you see them around? Are they contributing to the ummah? Are they contributing to your society, wherever you are? And the resounding answer is a big no. Most of the time, they're not. Okay, which confirms what I'm saying. Brothers and sisters, doesn't matter. Okay, a lot of the people will leave Islam. I mean, we can have another seminar maybe as to why and what we can do about it, but a lot of the people leave Islam. So the first pressure that you have to deal with is Shaitan. He's telling you, leave. What's wrong with you? What kind of choice have you made? Okay, what kind of choice have you made? It's a bad choice, a wrong choice. How do you overcome that really fast? How do you overcome it? You have to, bro. You've reached, brothers, you've reached Islam by the blessing of Allah. Allah has guided you. Don't think for 1 minute that somehow you had something special. Allah knows whether there was something special. Allah knows whether He has chosen you for a reason, whatever it is. He's seen your heart, what was inside of it, and has chosen you. But you've done a rational choice. It's your choice. You've accepted it. You've been presented with the truth, and then you accepted it. Okay? So rationalize the fact that this is the truth. Allah is the one. The Quran is the word of Allah. You have to have some kind of safety net to protect you when the other pressures will come. And we'll talk about that. But the main pressure is the pressure of doubts. It is a ton of bricks on your back. And to be honest, ignorance is bliss. A lot of people have not sought knowledge in Islam. Sometimes they're quite safe because they're kind of like, yeah, they understand the basic. God is one. I don't believe in the Trinity or whatever, Hinduism, whatever else before. I believe, of course, Prophet Muhammad is a messenger. He was a good person. And then you kind of just go on through life in a good way, alhamdulillah. And, there's different levels of knowledge, right? And I would say that a lot of times these people are very, very safe because they're kind of ignorant, not in a negative sense necessarily, but they just don't have too much knowledge and they're fine with it. And this is their personality and they move through life. And inshallah, they're quite okay and everything's fine. But they're not really contributing to this ummah whatsoever because they don't have the power. Knowledge is power. For those who go beyond that and they seek knowledge and they start getting into debates and explaining to people about Islam, there might be a big challenge, okay, to their iman intellectually. And I do a course, called Fighting Intellectual Apostasy, Defense Against Disaster, where we talk about that, what are the arguments that people use against Islam to convince new Muslims and Muslims to leave Islam, right? So putting all that together, you have to understand and rationalize and have this proof for yourself that you are on the truth. You have to convince yourself, man. You have to, for your own psychology, that this is the truth. You have to have some extent, a safety net, an ayah, something, a miracle from the Quran, from Islam, something, even if it's general, to hold you in the field of Iman, in the sphere of Iman. Once you've done that, you can always come back to that, no matter what. If you're confused, if you have issues, you're always going to fall on this, even this basic safety net, okay? For me, is the Quran is the word of Allah. I know 100% beyond the shadow of any doubt that the Quran is the word of Allah. It is the miracle. I've read many books. I've read many religious books. I've seen all the philosophy. There's nothing like Islam. Islam is the best, tops everything. By far, the Quran is by far the
perfect, most perfect. So when I keep that in mind, even just that basic rationality, when I have seen everything else and I see Islam, the Quran, no matter what anyone says, even if I don't understand it, even someone say, hey, look at this ayah. What do you say about that? Do you think the Quran is perfect? Even if I don't understand, I will say, you know what? I don't think I understand. I'm not going to question my faith because I know, فَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا. Know that there's no deity worthy of worship except Allah. If you look at even just the single concept of Tawheed, if you look at its definition and what it means in Islam and outside of Islam, other religions and philosophies that claim to have Tawheed, you will find that nothing comes close to Islam, to the perfection of Islam defining Tawheed. So when you understand, you rationalize that, I'm like, alhamdulillah, maybe I don't know anything or everything. Maybe I'm ignorant. Maybe whatever it is, yes, I'm not understanding it, but I know for sure one thing. This is the truth. Do whatever you want. Call me stubborn. I haven't come for 5, 6, 7 years struggling to find the truth and understanding it just to be doubtful because of one small issue. I'm comfortable. I'm confident that this is the truth. So once you're there, alhamdulillah, okay, shaitan is kind of losing hope about making you leave Islam to commit shirk. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to return our brothers and our sisters who have left Islam. I know many of them. I know people that have given shahada, people who prayed Fajr in the same line next to me, who are not now worshipping other than Allah. I remember a brother who used to tell me, man, if I ever, we're just kind of joking, if I ever leave Islam, know that I'm lying. It's just because of something else. SubhanAllah, he has left Islam and he's praying to Mary and to Jesus and to statues and to saints now as a Catholic. Sadly, and it started from a woman. And that's why now we're going to go into other pressures. And inshallah, I know that there is a sister who's also joining. I know I've taken most of the time, but I wanted to make this introduction. I want to talk about the biggest struggle, which was this. The biggest pressure from shaitan is that of leaving Islam. Now, for the other ones, the next pressures that we're going to talk about are mostly social related. We talk about some knowledge issues as well, but most of the things are related to social aspects, the changes that come with Islam, the adjustments, the cultural baggage, and so on that will, unavoidably will come up. Okay, so I believe if the administrators would like to open up now the discussion so that we can have the input of a woman as well, because I'm speaking from a man's perspective. Sisters, even though I am aware of the challenges the sisters face, okay, I do believe that it's important to get a woman's perspective as well on this, because it might be different, on how they feel. So I guess let's start. The first pressure that I would...
Sheikh, I've just added Sister Amanda to the discussion.
Okay.
So she's able to interact, inshallah. And also on the chat, a lot of the brothers and sisters have been mentioning some of the pressures that they've been facing. So I'll hand over back to you, Sheikh, to take lead in the discussion, inshallah.
Okay. Jazakallah khair.
Sister Amanda, have you joined?
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Excellent. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Yes, sister.
Alhamdulillah, good.
Okay, Sister Amanda, if you don't mind, just take a few minutes and just give me your perspective of what I've said and maybe your take on the first pressure that I was talking about, that is from shaitan for the new Muslim to leave Islam. What's your experience, or what do you feel from the sister side?
Barakallah feek. First of all, I'd just like to give a bit of a background myself. I've been a Muslim for 21 years now, alhamdulillah. And alhamdulillah, only by Allah's mercy, I've never gone through an experience of doubting in Allah's existence, or doubting in His oneness, or doubting in the prophecy of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. With myself, however, what I had issues with, because of societal issues and societal pressures, there was isolation that came along. And subhanAllah, the shaitan tries to take us away from our deen by isolating us in many ways. It's not necessarily through doubting our iman, but in doubting in the ummah, in the community of Muslims. And, you know, Islam is not a religion that can be practiced in isolation. It is a communal. You need the jama'ah, the congregation, in order to truly practice your Islam properly. And so I think that this is something I would, you know, extol on my brothers and sisters. If you are struggling, find your jama'ah, find your group of Muslims that you can adhere to. None of them are going to be perfect. This is one thing, you know, we complain about other Muslims all the time. SubhanAllah, we're not perfect, they're not perfect. But it is far better to be with a group of imperfect people who are striving than to be isolated on our own trying to be perfect, because we will never be perfect. And then another thing, when you were saying, brother, about the whispers of the shaitan, and to stick with the Quran, and you know, try to remember the Quran. And I would add to that your prayer, because the Prophet ﷺ said that what stands between a man and kufr and shirk is the salah. You know, if you grab nothing else after your shahada, grab onto your prayer with both hands as best you can. And that is your protection. That is your shield from kufr and from shirk, inshaAllah.
That's a great point. Of course, Salah is definitely something that helped me, no doubt. And I think I started praying right away. Didn't pray all the 5 prayers from the beginning, but to some people it's a struggle because of the change in scheduling and timing, and also one of the pressure that I believe that it's difficult for the new Muslim to pray is a lot of them feel that they're not spiritually connected to the salah because they don't understand Arabic and they don't understand the movements. They're coming from a background where they're just making dua in whatever language they can, right? It's just talking to God. And a lot of people who give da'wah fail to communicate the proper way of praying to them, or to help them to learn prayer correctly. It's just very ritualistic. So based on my experience, a lot of the new Muslims have an issue with that. And that is why it's very difficult for them to commit to the salah, because they don't feel it. And it becomes a source of a lot of pressure on them. Okay, they have to perform salah. They have to go to the masjid. Maybe sometimes the people have given them shahada. They're quite insistent on going and picking them up, taking them to the masjid, come pray, and so on. So the new Muslim feels very pressured because they don't yet understand the importance of salah. They don't understand, they don't feel the salah. You know what I mean? So it is something that a lot of new Muslims tend to delay or not do properly, because I would say in the first place, it wasn't explained to them properly and they didn't feel it. But I do agree with you that if someone explains to a new Muslim how to make salah from the beginning, and to make it meaningfully, I think that in that case, from what I've seen from my experience, those new Muslims are able to move through or navigate through the first few months or even years of Islam much easier than those who don't understand and those who have not been explained properly how to perform salah. And I'm not talking about just about the movements and how to hold your hands and legs and so on. I'm talking about the spiritual part that a lot of the new Muslims, when they transition from the previous lifestyle, let's say they're Christian or whatever, they will feel some kind of an emptiness because they're not communicating supposedly with God anymore. They're just kind of like doing things with the community, as you said, right? So you stand foot to foot, shoulder to shoulder, and you move in a certain way, but you don't feel it. And that can fire back. Now, when we look in the books of the fuqaha, and they explain how the new Muslim should pray, you find a lot more flexibility
than what we find today in our communities, right? So I think that's an issue. People need to, who give dawah, they have to be very careful and know how to give dawah and what to say and how to teach a new Muslim how to pray. But I definitely believe that salah is, as you said, after your shahada, that's the next thing immediately that you should focus on to protect yourself. Yeah. What do you think, Swarna?
Well, I agree. I
You
run
don't
a
have to
group.
agree, by the way, yeah?
Sorry?
You don't have to agree, by the way, yeah?
If I disagree, don't worry. I'll tell you, brother. I'm not like that. Alhamdulillah. But our local masjid, we run a support group for new Muslims. Alhamdulillah. And
Where is that?
this is in Cardiff, in Wales, in the United Kingdom. So the one of the things that we try to do every year, if we can, is to run a course on salah in order to help new Muslims learn how to pray and to get to grips with it. And I think one of the best things that I've ever been taught by the sheikh who teaches it is when he says right at the beginning, what does the word salah even mean? And he gives, the linguistic meaning of it as coming from silah, like silah rahim, where you're talking about it's the connection, it's your connection to Allah. The same way that you have the ties of kinship ties and so on, it comes from the same root. And he's explaining to us that this is your 5 times a day where you get to actually reinforce that thread that links you to your Creator. So whether you understand what you're saying or not, whether you're just literally just standing and thinking about Allah and going through the physical motions or not, you build it up step by step, but just to take that time out of your day at those appointed times in order to remember Allah and to do your best to do it how He wants you to do it. That encourages the feeling of your God consciousness, of your mindfulness of Allah and remembering Him in those times. I think personally, though, one of the biggest struggles that the new Muslims face, and it goes hand in hand with learning how to pray, but as you were saying, the fuqaha are quite flexible about it for the new Muslims, but is that striving for perfection instantaneously. Right. The expectation on ourselves to know how to pray straight away, to be fasting the entirety of Ramadan, even though it's 18 hours long straight away, and so on and so forth. And I think that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, but also the community puts a lot of pressure on us.
No,
and these are things that need addressing as well.
No doubt. So that was one of my next points, actually, subhanAllah. You split it. Well, it's I think the self pressure, the self-expectation, where you feel, okay, I've become Muslim now, I have to be like super Muslim from day one. Now that's a good standard and high standard to do so, and I hope that people can maintain that. And we don't want to, I would say that expecting the best from yourself is much more important than others expecting the best from you, because in the end of the day, it's about making sure that you're happy in your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whatever other people think is not the most important thing, even though it's a pressure without a doubt. But when it comes to the personal expectation, I think a lot of people do, as you said, think that, okay, I'll just start everything 100%. And it goes against the advice of the Prophet ﷺ, who told us to take, the deen slow, easy, because it's deep, and there's, beware of extremes. And this was an advice the Prophet ﷺ was giving to the Sahaba, and the Sahaba was, what we need to understand, a lot of times we fail to understand that they were a community of new Muslims. They're the best example that we have when we are looking at new Muslim struggles, even though, of course, there's a few different differences in the culture, what they were faced with, and so on. And they had the Prophet ﷺ with them, which we don't, but we do have the Quran and Sunnah. But definitely, a lot of people want to do everything from the beginning, which is nice, but it goes against the advice of the Prophet ﷺ. So we have to take it step by step. We have to make sure we don't get overwhelmed. We have to always look at how we feel and so on, and continue on a journey of self-improvement. A lot of people think that you just plateau from the first few days and just do everything, and then after that it's just down the drain. You kind of go down. So definitely, I think that's a very, very important thing. New Muslims have to take things slowly. That doesn't mean you shouldn't pray, or you should, because that's another kind of like a kickback that a lot of people say, okay, I don't want to push myself, or don't push me. I don't want to push myself. I want to take things slow. And that's not what we mean. It's not that, after 10 years, subhanAllah, after 10 years, some people still don't pray. After 10 years, some people still don't know how to read the Quran. After 10 years, people still are not comfortable with, doing a lot of the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked them to do. So definitely there has to be a balance in the way we move through learning Islam, through practicing Islam, step by step. Can be too fast, can be too slow. That's for the self-pressure, the self, issues that we face, inshallah. So that's my input on that. With regards to the community, I think this is where the problem is. In the age of YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, we love to see shahadas. Like shahada is the most searched thing within Muslim, spectrum when it comes to Islamic terminology on Google. People love to see converts, reverts. They love to see YouTube videos. 90 people took shahada, 100 people, one village took shahada. Gives you this iman rush, especially the existing Muslims, the cultural Muslims. And I'm not insulting anyone here. What I mean by cultural Muslims, I mean like they're coming from an Islamic culture. They've been raised into a Muslim family. For them, Islam is part of their culture. And this is good. There's nothing bad with it. There's nothing negative necessarily from that. But when they see a new Muslim, they always say, one of the first things they say is, you're better than us, right? Even if it's after 15, 20 years, you're better than us. And I was telling, brother, it's been a long time, man. It's been 15 years, don't say that. I said, I might be worse than you. Allah knows best. But, they have this high expectations that somehow we're going to lead them from the darkness into the light, There's somehow we're going to be perfect. We're going to be the ones who are going to show them what true Islam is really all about. They always say, you guys really understand Islam because you've made this choice while we were born with it. And I say, bro, say alhamdulillah that you were born with it, because you don't know the struggles that we've gone through to reach this point. So just, be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what you have received as a gift, as hadiyah. And the pressure increases because there's all these expectations from the community to perform, to be a leader in the community, to be a model, a role model. And hence, a lot of pedestals will open up for us, giving khutbah, giving lectures. It starts with the conversion story. Then people start asking you questions, and it just rolls down slowly into, new Muslims being put on the spotlight and talking and representing the Muslim community a lot of times when they don't yet have the ability and the knowledge. And it's nice. It feels nice. The attention is nice. And the praises are nice. But in the end, when you hit a wall, that it makes you bounce back and it hurts, because a lot of times, you might say the wrong thing. You've been put on this pedestal. You've been given all these, avenues to express yourself, and they start saying the wrong things, and people start firing back, and then you realize like, what the heck is going on? I thought I'm this superstar. I thought I'm this amazing, new Muslim. I am a new Muslim. I am better than them. Shaitan is very smart in how he's going to try to play his game. So a lot of the new Muslims fall back because of that and the expectations of the community. Sister Amanda, what do you think about that?
I think the phenomena that you're talking about, when I first became Muslim, we called it convertitis, the inflammation of the convert, basically. But subhanAllah, I find it nowadays to be, and to just sort of to bring another issue that our ummah is facing into the mix, but the issue of racism. This is a purely white convert phenomena, I've noticed in my experience. Our brothers and sisters who come from Afro-Caribbean backgrounds or Asian backgrounds or East Asian backgrounds and so on, they get the opposite. They get looked at with suspicion. They get looked at with, they're facing, especially our Asian brothers and sisters, if they come from Hindu or Sikh backgrounds, they're facing all sorts of backlash from their birth communities. And then when they become Muslim, it's just, people aren't even aware that they're new Muslims, maybe simply because of how they looked. It's assumed that they're born Muslims. Our Afro-Caribbean brothers and sisters face racism plus other forms of discrimination. And so they're not necessarily, pardon me, the adhan was going off. So, you know, they're not, sorry, whoops, bismillah. So they're facing different types of struggles from within the community, whereas the white Muslims, and I don't know if this is a remnant of colonialism or whatever, but, and I'm saying this as a white convert, we're put up on that pedestal. And I do think it comes from the fact that a lot of people from Muslim cultural backgrounds, they love this reaffirmation that the people who used to colonize them are accepting their religion now.
That's a very good
And
point.
I think if we're those of us who are sincere in our love for Allah and so on, and who are getting rid of the shackles of this colonialist mindset, are thrilled whenever anybody accepts Islam. But I've noticed a tendency for it to be there to be more excitement if it's a white person who's accepting Islam, and then being put up on that pedestal. And this is disastrous, because this destroys our humility, and it's just another way in which the shaitan plays with our minds. SubhanAllah.
Yeah, definitely. I found that being a white man gave me a lot of privilege. So some of the brothers, mashallah, have gone to become scholars in Islam, you know, Caucasians, reverts, converts, whatever you might have you. They, we talk about it sometimes, we call it the white privilege. And we say, I mean, we're very honest about it, saying that we had a lot of privileges as white men converting to Islam, and some of the opportunities that we've received. But it's changing, because I do see a lot more Africans being given the pedestal as well these days, especially in the US and so on. And it is changing, but I do agree with you, and definitely you hit the nail on the head, that it's that post-colonial, you know, complex where people feel like, wow, you know, those who colonize us now, they're becoming Muslim, so they're happy with that. But definitely, to move on, I would say that the community putting pressure on the new Muslims is we talked about the expectations, you know, being super Muslim and so on. One of the other thing is that because our Muslim communities are so diverse in their culture, a lot of times the new Muslim doesn't understand what is the difference between cultural Islam and Islamic culture, right? So a lot of the times, depending where you are, in which location of the country, be it the UK, Canada, USA, Australia, a lot of the times the Islam or the brand of Islam that will be taught to the new Muslim will be either the Pakistani one, the Indian one, the Tablighi, the Arab one, the Sudani one, the Bosnian one, depending on what kind of masjid they were, you know, blessed to attend or to take their shahada. And a lot of times their pressure to change their culture and to change the way, you know, they dress, the way they do things for another culture, while under the pretext that this is Islam. Now, I'm not saying that as a new Muslim, you should make some changes and adjustments in your culture, in your fashion, in the way you talk. We all have an Islamization of our vocabulary. That's the first thing that changes. We start saying Assalamu alaikum. That's the first thing we do. We start referring to God as Allah. And language is one of the most important things in culture. We start, you know, saying Alhamdulillah, InshaAllah, and all these things. Of course, very fast we're going to find out that InshaAllah means to most of our community members that it's not going to happen. But nonetheless, we adopt this vocabulary. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't. We have to. I believe that the Muslim identity goes along with, you know, some of the cultural things that are from Islam. And of course, because you've accepted Islam, you've made a huge adjustment. There's going to be some other fine tunings and adjustments that have to take place in the way you eat, in the way you talk, in the way you walk, the way you look, everything. I'm not saying to dress with a turban and a thobe or, you know, niqab from day one or anything. If you want to do it, it's up to you. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, people shouldn't, because if you want to express yourself, you want to adopt a certain culture, you feel you like it. Like I was talking to someone recently, and they were saying that, you know, they like to wear this thobe or this thing, and they feel happy in it and so on. So I said, okay, man, this is great, right? But I think the pressure comes when the people start forcing it, and they say you have to wear this, you have to do this, you have to do that. And subhanAllah, it's not linked to the Prophet ﷺ, sometimes in no way, right? It's not linked to the Sharia of Islam, but it's made to appear so. And if you can't, if I cannot wear a shawar kameez and a turban or imama from day one, I've seen, subhanAllah, may Allah forgive me, when the brother is taking shahada, the first thing the brothers did is to go up to him and put a turban on his head. It's not right. It's not in line with the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, to do that. So people start feeling, the new Muslim will feel like, well, I'm not really feeling this. And does that mean I'm not a good Muslim? And they'll start having these doubts. Maybe I'm not a good Muslim because I can't really accept this, or I'm not feeling good, and so on. So, this constant pressure for you to conform to a certain culture, a certain nationality is going to be on you, brother. Don't do it. I remember as a new Muslim, someone was, we were eating, sitting on the floor, have no problem with that, because even from my culture, we do that, and we eat with our hands and whatnot. But then I was about to eat a banana, and alhamdulillah that Allah has given me some understanding of life, and I've traveled a lot, and I read a lot. So the brother looked at me and he said, brother, it's not sunnah to open it this way. You have to open it that way. So I thought up to myself, I didn't want to fight. I usually never argue with people like that, unless I really lose my temper, and it happens only once in a blue moon. But he said, this is not from the sunnah. And he really made a point to scold me that that's not how you're supposed to open the banana. You're supposed to open from the other side. And I said, okay, mashallah. Then in my mind, I said, I don't think the Prophet ﷺ ever ate a banana. So I made a point when I went home to research it a bit. And lo and behold, he never ate a banana. And the Prophet ﷺ never ate rice. But anyway, I discovered that actually the way the brother was telling me to open up a banana is the way monkeys usually do it. Okay? So I was, it was just a funny incident that someone would attribute something to a sunnah that is not from the sunnah. What I'm trying to say, I guess, is that the community sometimes, out of their ignorance, and maybe the love even for Islam, because I don't want to say that they're just, negative. I think a lot of these people are very, very sincere. I think they're very excited to see a new Muslim. I think they want them to feel that safety that they do from that cultural cover. Because when you're in a Muslim culture, raised into it, you have it's like part of your DNA, and you feel safe. Even if you're ignorant, even if whatever happens, no, I'm a Muslim. I'll die before I ever even think or have the slightest doubt, and that is fine. And they want to project that onto the new Muslims, but they don't understand that the new Muslim has not been that way, doesn't have those feelings, and when you force that way onto them, it backfires a lot of times. Yeah. Sister Amanda, what do you think about that?
I think with regards to adopting cultural issues, or adopting cultural norms rather than Islamic norms, one of the things that sisters face especially is with regards to hijab. And I think that's going to be slightly different than for the brothers, simply because it is something that's ordained in the Quran. And so it is a fard that we have to do. However, I've been witness to sisters coming to the masjid to take shahada, and before they're even told about how to pray, they're told that they have to wear the hijab. And to me, that's just so the wrong order of doing things. And I'm saying this as somebody who wore hijab from not from day one, but from quite early on, alhamdulillah. But I would never start telling a sister that she has to wear hijab and how important it is before I explained to her how to pray. And that said, she has to wear hijab in order to pray, so it sort of goes hand in hand. But there is that huge pressure on the sisters to cover from day one, even before they've learned how to say salams, even before they really understand what it is that they're getting into. And then, of course, how they're going to cover is going to be very much dependent on the community that they're living in. If they're living in an Asian community or majority Arab community or Malaysian or so on, they're going to be expected to adopt that mode of dress, and that will be considered as their hijab, so to speak. We also see a lot of sisters who struggle because they're pressured into marrying quite quickly once they've become Muslim, and they're expected to therefore adopt the culture of the family that they're marrying into. I don't know if this happens with brothers quite to the same extent, because I think probably as the men of the house, they might escape that a little bit, but there is very much a lot of... No, you're shaking your head. Okay. I mean, I can only have the female experience. But, you know, I see a lot of sisters who they get married and then suddenly they're wearing shalwar kameez every day, or they're wearing like an Arab style abaya or something like that. Whereas before they were wearing skirts and long sleeve blouses, Western style clothing, but modest. They're expected to learn how to cook the right foods and all of these issues. And again, all of this becomes a lot of pressure, because it's sort of, the idea is that if you're not doing this, you're not a good Muslim. Right. Which is absolutely preposterous. And learning how to cook molokhia because your husband is Egyptian doesn't make you a good Muslim or a bad Muslim. It just makes you a good cook, right? So, subhanAllah. But I find that these are things that the sisters particularly will face.
I just want to add something to the hijab and experience, where a sister was coming to the masjid, and I think she's taking the shahada, or she was about to take the shahada. One of the elders saw her without the hijab and screamed at her, like, "What are you doing? Fear Allah." And basically turned around and says, "If this is Islam, I don't want it," and walked out. And the brothers were present there, you know, some people were present, and they tried to, you know, but it was too late. So I think, as you said, right, I mean, we don't belittle the hijab. It's so important. It's so, so important. But as you said, there's an order of things to be done. And we see that order from the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, I know that some of the scholars say that as soon as you become Muslim now, everything is binding on you, which I don't agree, actually, because it's an ijtihad that they've taken, or some of them, not all, of course. But when you look at the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I mean, when we say we follow Quran and Sunnah, why don't we follow it when it comes to this? When we look at the tadrij, or the gradual approach, even for the Sahaba, we find it very clearly outlined that things have to go step by step. And we find it in the way the revelation and the injunctions that have come down to this ummah, to the Sharia, have taken place. It took 23 years for some of the laws and regulations to come slowly to human beings, to guide humanity. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when Prophet was questioned as to why things are revealed in portions, he says that the heart may be or may reach thibat, or tranquility, or steadfastness. Right? And there's no surprise when we say to people, take things step by step so that you may understand things correctly. If you just take everything at once, you're not going to be able to. If you just pushed at once, you're not going to be able to. So this concept of taking things not slowly, but I would say gradually. That's probably the word that I'm looking for. Taking things gradually. I'm not saying taking things slowly. It is very important, I believe, for the new Muslim. And just to add to the issue of marriage, it happens to brothers too. A lot of brothers, they want to get married right away because, of course, their desires, and they're coming from a background of living in a relationship. Most of the time, let's be honest, you know, let's put aside any kind of shyness here, that a lot of the men who are not, you know, they enter Islam, they're not virgin, they've had, you know, sexual relationships. And the first thing they want to do is, man, I just got, you know, I took shahada, it's haram to date, it's haram to have, you know, a relationship, I need to get married so I can express my desires in a halal way. So they will rush. I'm not saying don't do that, but they will rush to get married. And a lot of times those marriages end up in disaster. Forget about divorce, I'm talking about disaster, okay? With one of the two parties, you know, having huge, major problems, destroying the other person's life, sometimes the whole family, because the rush, you know, and the pressure. And correct me if I'm wrong, even for the sisters, I mean, I've seen it when sisters have taken shahada. I mean, people wait for them downstairs to already propose right after the shahada. Correct me if I'm wrong. A few
No, you're not
times.
wrong.
And a lot of times the sisters will fall for it, you know. And subhanAllah, you know, the mother-in-law of the brother who has seen the sister taking shahada waiting downstairs, and you know, and within a few days it's all done in history. And a lot of these problems affect the way the new Muslim views Islam and understands Islam. And as you say, moving in with the in-laws, having all these expectations, you know, and so on and so forth. Same for the brothers, kind of same thing. But I think the brothers have a bit more, I think they can get away with a few more things just because the way, you know, cultures are set up. Allah knows best. Okay, I think Brother Kalim, may Allah help you, is telling us to stop. We have so much more. We just started, brother.
Jazakumullah khair. We'll be closing inshallah. So if you want to put forward any final comments, I know subhanAllah, this topic we can keep going.
We just started. It's just getting warm. It's just getting warm, bro.
I mean, if you guys are happy to continue, and those who are listening are happy to stay tuned, Bismillah, you can continue inshallah.
I'm actually going to have to log off, sadly.
Okay.
But Jazakallah khair for the opportunity to call in.
Barakallahu feekum. MashaAllah.
And if anybody's ever in Cardiff, do look me up.
Alhamdulillah.
No problem, sister. Jazakallah khair for joining us today and sharing your perspective. I've put a link on the chat for our next webinar, and it is kind of related to today's topic in terms of pressures, in terms of sects and madhabs and everything that comes with it. And somebody even mentioned something on the chat. So in our next webinar, we'll be giving like a beginner's guide to madhabs. What are they all about? What are the madhabs? Why are there different madhabs? Which one should we follow, if we should follow one, and so much more, inshallah. So we'll be clarifying all those topics and more. So please remember to click the link to register. That's taking place on September the 22nd, inshallah. Also, you'll receive an email to share your feedback. We always appreciate your feedback, even putting forward your suggestions of future topics. Today's webinar was a suggestion from one of the reverts to put forward this topic. So please remember to share your feedback with us. Again, Jazakumullah khair for everybody who has been listening, for everybody who will listen to the replay. I'm sure people will be listening and watching to the replay. And barakallahu feek to Sheikh Gabriel and Sister Amanda for joining us today. Again, subhanAllah, for many of you who don't know who joined late, I'm instructor today, Gabriel Romaani, is actually tuning in from Malaysia. And Sheikh, what is the time there now?
It's 4:46.
4:46 a.m.
Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah, barakallah feek. Really appreciate it. And I hope everyone benefited. And we look forward to seeing you guys for our next webinar, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك